Millions crossed the Sahara, shackled not by iron, but by a different kind of chain. A trade in human lives, its sheer longevity dwarfing even the infamous Atlantic Passage. Yet, where did empires rise? Not amidst the Arabian sands, nor within the fertile lands of the Levant. Instead, they bloomed across the ocean, relentlessly fueled by the very same stolen labor. The question isn't if the Arab world participated in the slave trade, but why that participation, centuries deep, yielded no colonial empires mirroring the Americas. Why, when faced with a seemingly identical resource, did two civilizations forge such radically different legacies of power and exploitation? Prepare to confront the uncomfortable truths behind a history often whispered, and rarely truly examined. As we embark on this search, what single, pivotal factor do you think explains this stark difference? Subscribe to Documentary Channel, and leave a comment. With your initial thoughts, your insights fuel the conversation. The echoes of the Sahara still carry the cries of the enslaved, a haunting testament to a vast system. But unlike the plantations of the Americas, these stolen lives didn't forge new continents. What prevented the Arab world from translating human bondage into territorial conquest? Was it the ideology of Islam itself, an unexpected barrier to unchecked expansion? Or did structural fault lines exist within Arab societies, preventing the kind of ruthlessly centralized, exploitative power necessary for empire building? We now delve into the heart of this historical paradox, a journey into the complex interplay of faith, power, and the enduring stain of slavery. The enduring stain of slavery casts a long shadow across both Arab and European histories, yet the empires that arose differed profoundly. While European expansion in the Americas demanded territorial conquest and the brutal restructuring of societies around chattel slavery, Arab networks prioritized trade routes and the extraction of resources. A crucial distinction, indeed, etched by the monsoon winds that dictated passage across the Indian Ocean. The dhow, that iconic Arab vessel, became a lifeline, connecting East Africa, Arabia, and India in a seasonal dance of spices, textiles, and, tragically, enslaved people. Consider Kilwa Kisiwane, a Swahili city-state flourishing on the gold flowing from Great Zimbabwe. Arab merchants partnered with African communities, extracting these precious resources without imposing direct rule. Ibn Battuta, in his 14th-century travels, chronicled these vibrant coastal networks, noting the integration of Islamic culture and the palpable presence of Arab traders, a presence facilitated by the concept of safe passage. This ingenious system allowed merchants to traverse diverse political landscapes, ensuring the steady flow of goods without requiring centralized control. The Socotra aloe trade exemplifies this further to specialized resource, traded without the need for conquest. Even Omani control of Zanzibar, focused on clove production through enslaved labor in the 18th and 19th centuries, lacked the wholesale societal remaking characteristic of European colonialism. The focus remained on extraction, not fundamental transformation. European colonialism, a brutal dance of exploitation and control, differed profoundly. The transatlantic slave trade forcibly displaced an estimated 12.5 million Africans between the 16th and 19th centuries. They were destined not merely for servitude, but for the insatiable maw of plantation economies. Caribbean islands transformed into sugar factories, Brazil into a coffee and sugar empire, and the American South into fields of cotton and tobacco, all fueled by enslaved labor. A human cost beyond measure. The triangular trade became a chilling symbol of this ruthless efficiency. European manufactured goods were exchanged for human lives in Africa, those lives traded for raw materials in the Americas, and those materials shipped back to Europe to feed industrialization. The Royal African Company, chartered in 1660, epitomized this system, transporting over 100,000 souls to the Americas by 1700. This was not merely trade, it was territorial conquest, the imposition of European legal systems, and the systematic dismantling of African social structures. Unlike the Arab trade networks, which often worked within existing power structures, the Berlin Conference of 1884–85 epitomized the European approach, a carve-up of Africa, devoid of African voices, designed purely for resource extraction and political dominance. The French doctrine of assimilation, a cruel irony, aimed to culturally integrate Africans while simultaneously justifying resource extraction and colonial control. Even the Haitian Revolution, a beacon of hope led by Toussaint Louverture, which shook the foundations of colonial power, served to highlight the extent to which European powers would go to protect their slave-based economies. The Arabs, while facing resistance, rarely encountered continent-wide warfare on the same scale. Their focus remained on trade, not the total replacement of societies. The transatlantic slave trade was justified by a racial hierarchy meticulously constructed over centuries. Consider the curse of Ham, twisted to rationalize the enslavement of Africans, or the pseudo-scientific classifications of Enlightenment thinkers like Carl Linnaeus, who categorized Homo affair as inherently capricious. The Spanish purity of blood statutes, originating in the 15th century, further cemented this cruel structure, inextricably linking ancestry to social standing. Within Arab societies, race was not always the sole determinant in enslavement. While slavery undeniably existed within the Arab world, religion, origin, and military conquest often played a more significant role. The Zanj Rebellion in 869 AD, a massive uprising of enslaved East Africans in present-day Iraq, laid bare the deep-seated tensions surrounding slavery. The sponsorship system, though distinct from chattel slavery, still raises troubling questions about control and dependency, echoing historical power imbalances. The 19th century suppression of the Arab slave trade by European powers was often cloaked in humanitarianism, masking their own burgeoning colonial ambitions. The contrasting ways Arab states formed also influenced this divergence. Unlike Europe's centralized, expansionist model, Arab empires charted a different course. Influenced by the principles of Islamic law, which technically prohibited the enslavement of fellow Muslims, Jews, and Christians, their trajectory often diverged sharply. Consider the remarkable case of the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt, where enslaved soldiers rose to rule, a system fundamentally at odds with the brutal logic of plantation-based exploitation. Ibn Khaldun's concept of social cohesion illuminates the cyclical nature of Arab power rapid expansion fueled by unity, inevitably followed by fragmentation. The Omani Empire's control over Zanzibar, a vital hub for the East African slave trade from 1698 to 1890, provides another compelling example. But their influence never translated into American-style territorial dominance. Their focus remained strategically fixed on trade routes and vital ports, not on establishing vast plantations demanding constant and insatiable expansion. In stark contrast to Europe's relentless thirst for land and resources, Arab traders primarily employed slaves for domestic service, military service, and concubinage. Ultimately, the contrasting approaches to trade, slavery, and colonialism illuminate the divergent paths of Arab and European expansion. Europe aggressively pursued territorial empires, built on the backs of plantation economies, and codified by racialized legal structures. The Arab world, however, prioritized intricate trade networks, diverse forms of labor extending beyond mere agriculture, and a societal integration often achieved through manumission and religious conversion. The absence of sprawling territorial empires does not diminish the Arab slave trade's enduring impact. It merely reveals a different, yet equally consequential, chapter in the long and painful history of human exploitation. This divergence highlights that the pursuit of profit and power can manifest in vastly different forms, each leaving its own indelible mark on the world. The Arab experience underscores that exploitation doesn't always require territorial control to be devastating and far-reaching. The contrasting historical trajectories of Arab and European involvement in the slave trade reveal a complex interplay of economic drivers, ideological justifications, and socio-political structures. While both systems inflicted immense suffering and perpetuated profound inequalities, their distinct characteristics shaped drastically different legacies. The European model, driven by plantation economies and racial ideology, resulted in territorial empires and the systematic subjugation of entire populations. The Arab model, focused on trade networks and diverse forms of labor, led to a different pattern of influence, one characterized by integration and cultural exchange, yet still marred by exploitation and injustice. Having explored the structural and ideological differences between Arab and European colonial models, what lasting impact do you believe these distinct approaches to slavery and trade have on contemporary global power dynamics and cultural identities? Share your thoughts in the comments below.